Well, it's been a cheaper alternative to materials such as marble for fixtures such as bench tops, but engineered stone has been a contributor to deadly silicosis for tradespeople who breathe in the dangerous silica dust, in particular if it's not cut safely. A workplace health and safety ministers meeting will consider a ban on the stone today. It is a move Tony Burke appears to be supporting. It's a move backed by unions as well. Joining me now is the CFMEU's National Secretary Zach Smith. Thanks very much for your time. It seems likely it's going to be banned. What are you hearing from the federal minister?
Yeah, look, the indications from the federal minister are positive, that they're heeding the union's call to ban the importation and manufacture of engineered stone, and we welcome that. We won't rest, however, until the ban is implemented, and we've said if a ban isn't forthcoming and implemented by 1 July 2024, our union will implement its own workplace ban of the product.
Okay, so does it have to be done by then, or we're on a path to it by then?
Has to be done by then. We cannot afford...
No more cutting of that in Australia beyond July of next year?
No more importation or cutting or use of this product by 1 July 2024.
Right, even if it's sitting there existing, someone's booked it in, won't be cut by anything?
Workers have a right to refuse work that poses a risk to their health and safety, and we'll be certainly advising our members from 1 July 24 not to use or work with this product.
The one debate around this is the sort of level of silica. So it can be up to 95%, which quite a few groups, some say that could be done safely with wet cutting. We've got a lot of overlay here which sort of tells the story. You can see properly done wet cutting and PPE. Some groups suggest, look, to be safe, you need it to be a lower percentage. So do you have a percent in mind, and what are you basing that on?
There's a few things there to respond to. Firstly, wet cutting, PPE and licensing regimes in of themselves won't protect workers. And we've seen that now. We've seen even in workplaces with relatively better WHS standards, workers are still contracting silicosis. And 1 in 4 workers in New South Wales that are working with this product are getting screened for silicosis or another deadly dust disease, which means that this issue is endemic to using this product. In terms of percentage concentrates, that really comes to the issue of definition of what would be captured by a ban. And our union's position is that wherever that percentage is drawn, it needs to be based on the best available research and science about what the safe levels are for workers.
Right, so when you say that though, there are different views on it. There's going to be 95, you're saying, is too high. So there's a certain level where it needs to come down to, where if it's done safely, and I'm sure there'll be a bit of a buffer, right? You might say, look, we can probably do it at 70, let's make it 60, whatever it might be. Because this same disease can happen from concrete, from cement as well. So we're going to keep using them. So it's about what's the lowest number or the highest number we can do it safely.
Sure, and I suppose what I'm saying in response to that, I certainly don't think it's 60 or 70. I have seen certain organisations throwing around 40%, for instance. We're not prepared to commit to 40% unless it's backed up by the expert research, and I'm yet to see that, to say that is safe for workers. So wherever that line is drawn and wherever the definition of engineered stone is drawn, wherever those lines are, it needs to be backed by the best available research.
Right. So you'd expect the minister to go, here's the evidence, here's the number, here's the percentage, and then you'd support that if you're comfortable with...
If we're comfortable with it, yeah, and if it's backed by science. What we need today, though, is Tony Burke, along with his state and territory counterparts, to agree to implement a ban, and that's the first important step to say we can no longer safely use this product and implement a ban.
The interesting part about where you set it at as well is there an assumption that not everyone will play by the rules, and you need to set it a bit lower because some operators just won't take the precautions, and as a result, you need a product that's a bit lower. Is that the reality of the industry?
Well, unfortunately, there is a reality out there that there's a lot of cowboy operators, a lot of people that have implemented practices that are just unsafe, that are exposing workers to far more risk than is necessary. But, putting that aside, the truth of the matter is there's no safe level of exposure or no safe way of using engineered stone.
Well, when you say that, we're again talking about percentages. So if there's a 40% reading, couldn't that still be in part an engineered stone?
It could be, but again, I'm not going to commit to a percentage without...
No, I understand that, but the point is it's about lowering the level but also doing it safely. You have to do both.
That's right. And so, things like PPE and dry cutting and licensing can exist and can be very useful in conjunction with a ban, but they cannot fully protect workers in isolation without a ban on importation and manufacture.
Big wage increase negotiation recently in the ACT for general service officers within the government, a lowest paid getting a 34% increase. It's very high. Why such a high figure? And, we're talking about inflation and feeding into it. It's not the sort of figure you could apply across the country, is it?
Yeah, well, firstly, I was involved in the negotiation of that deal as the ACT Secretary and very proud of that outcome. Those are workers who have been historically low paid and came off a very low base. And so really this increase puts them at an ability to meet the cost of living, which in Canberra is exacerbated more than other capital cities, it's true to say. And we think it's great that the Labor government here, that Andrew Barr heeded that call and met our demands. In terms of your comment around inflation...
it's not the sort of figure you could roll out anywhere else, right? It's a bit of a different case.
Well, certainly it's not something we're taking forward in other negigations.
Right.
This was...
What are you hoping for a normal construction worker? There's not maybe just one construction worker, but what sort of figure are you working with in negotiations on construction workers?
To be honest, our state branches are sitting down currently and developing their claims in each of the major cities for construction on-site bargaining. We're not in a position to release those claims yet. They're still being developed. Negotiations will start over the course of this year.
Do you want workers not to go backwards?
We don't want workers to go backwards, but
so you'd be looking at
when we talk about inflation, there's a really important point here to make, and that's that corporate profit taking is driving up inflation far more than wages are. And we can't lose sight of the fact that workers have been asked to absorb the pain of a cost of living crisis, of an inflationary crisis, that isn't being caused by wage growth. It's been caused by profit taking.
But if wages do hit 8%, then it would be
chain.
being caused by, it'd be chasing it, right? So as much as you might say it's not caused by that initially, if then you start seeing 8% across the nation, it would be contributing.
But why is the debate that the only way we can control cost of living and inflation is by belting working people over the head? Whether it's through wage restraint or whether it's through interest rate hikes, and saying that the only effective measure we have in this country of containing inflation is to increase interest rates, which is disproportionately felt by working people. It seems that we're in this economic paradigm where we're not asking for the same restraint of big business, and we're seeing record profits from the big supermarkets, amongst others. I'm not seeing similar calls for profit restraints or price restraints from the big end of town, yet we expect the workers to bear brunt of an inflationary crisis not of their making.
I guess you get to our entire economic system at that point, and we don't have quite enough time to go through
Maybe
today.
one day.
Zach Smith, thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom.